Welcome back to the Queens of Commerce. I'm Stephanie Nelson.
And I'm Shannon Hoddick. We're the Queens of Commerce.
Today, we are going to talk about the dirty secrets of the RFP world and what brands actually say. So, Shannon, let's first, though, kick off today with our 2-minute drill. So, what's been going on in your life, work, life, chaos, everything in between?
Well, you're in Minneapolis. I'm in New Jersey. We're still in school. So it has been, you know what the last 2 weeks are like? I don't think I can make another lunch. I certainly can't get my kid to school on time. And I just want exams to be over. And, if he passes his classes, I'm good to go. I'm dialing it in. I'm sure you're past that time frame. How
Yes,
are your
we
kids
are.
still in
We are
school?
past that time frame. We are into the full swing of summer. You've got kids in activities, which is great to keep them out of the house. But these activities start at times that just are not conducive to working parents. And so I am borrowing, and pleading with any parent of, I will do drop off. Can you do pickup?
I said something the other day. I'm like, the only value I lost it on my family is the only value I bring is I am a chef, a chauffeur, and a bank. Like, I am tired of it.
Yeah. ATM Steph is out of cash.
Exactly. Go get a job.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's dive in a little bit to what today's topic is. So again, we are in the heart of RFP season, as most probably other agencies are. Today, we're going to talk about some of the secrets behind RFP land. What are the things that we're seeing? What are the things that are giving us the head scratch? And hopefully, you'll find some nuggets of value for yourself along the way.
I was just going to say, though, are they really secrets or is everybody just not being honest about it?
Well, that's fair. Well, after today, they won't be secrets. Okay, so the first thing that Shannon and I talked a lot about this over the last couple of months, it is this concept behind how RFPs are actually being written by brands.
Yep. I think, in my current role from a shopper marketing agency perspective, we've had quite a few RFPs come through in the last 6 months. My prior role was running business development. So you can imagine the number of RFPs I've seen. And Steph, you were on the firing lines with me for most of them. But a good, well-written RFP really matters to the agency. And we've seen a wild range of information come across. And I think the worst RFP that we've seen was written by another agency, which begs the question, did they know how to write an RFP?
Or had they answered one themselves before?
I mean, I think more information is always better. I think the best RFPs happen when the clients make themselves available to answer questions because on average, how many clarifying questions would you say that we have in any given RFP?
I mean, at least a dozen.
At least, if not double that, right?
Yeah.
And I think,
and I'm not trying to fault the brand. I get that there is lots of stakeholders that want their say in the agency that gets selected and what they're good at and what you want them to demonstrate. But the reality is it sometimes they haven't thoroughly read how it's all come together. It sort of feels like they've written their sections separately, but then they've contradicted themselves. And so then what are you really looking for?
well, and they want a strategic agency and the brief's not even strategic. So it comes across like they don't even know what they want, which is
My
frustrating to
favorite
receive.
was one reading very creative forward, and they're like, but we have a creative AOR.
Or how about the one where we got one recently that was all about activation strategies, execution excellence. And then they were like, never mind, we don't want you to execute after the RFP. It was just fascinating. I think,
Yeah.
listen, at the end of the day, I've never seen a perfect RFP ask. I think the conversation is the most important thing about an RFP. It helps you gain clarity. It helps you get clear understanding. I think one of the biggest issues we're seeing is there's no common language in this industry.
None.
So agencies have different ways of talking about their business depending on their culture and their approach. And clients have different ways about talking about their business. And the client organizations are so vastly different from PG to CPG that it can get very, very confusing. So the most important thing is that collaborative conversation.
Okay, so second sort of secret out there, shopper marketing was not hot for a year or two, and now all of a sudden it's back in full force. But it's kind of this weird dichotomy because I think brands thought they could do it themselves. And so with the evolution of digital, they're like, well, I better just bring this thing in house.
Yep. I think ultimately, like my perspective, so first of all, I do not love the terminology shopper marketing, but it is the most common language that gets to the understanding of what needs to be delivered, which is driving awareness, trial, and conversion with people who are shopping stores, right? I
Yep.
someday we'll come up with a better name for it, but it feels very antiquated to me, right?
Oh, very antiquated. I mean, it really does need a rebrand. So if anybody out there has got any bright ideas of how we should rebrand shopper marketing, we're all ears at this point because I think shopper marketing is a highly dated term that actually doesn't mean the same thing to anybody in the industry anymore. And collapsing of trade within that, the growth of retail media, it's still very fragmented, but it just added its a whole layer of complexity in the process.
Well, you always talk about the funnel, right? That funnel is collapsed and is upside down. So, like,
Yeah.
as you talk about shopper marketing in the context of the way the world is working, the shoppers are still in control. We still have to market against their behavior. But I think we still think about it in a really antiquated way. I think as we think with the RFPs that we've received, these are companies that either had shopper marketing disciplines and they got rid of them. They had shopper marketing agencies and decided to bring it in house. And now with the fragmentation that we're talking about, it's too much to think about, and you really do need that expertise. So, some of the RFPs that we're seeing most recently are companies that have never had a shopper marketing agency, and they're
Yeah.
recognizing that they need a partner with the strategies, the data, the insight, the tools, the technology, the talent, name it all, that can help them take that brand message and disseminate it in a targeted way to drive sales. What we're seeing right now is this crazy consumer trend where people are channel shifting, they're category shifting, and they are really making very specific choices because of some economic restraints, right? So you've got to get in there and be very, very targeted with your approach. And some of these companies don't know how to do that.
Well, and I think this leads me to the next thing is I think before shopper could have this universal playbook, if you will, but retailer specific strategies are just so important now. And so like when you think about that and what we're seeing that they've come to brands have come to this realization, like for me to win at a particular retailer, I need that retailer specific activation to ensure that I'm actually moving units at Walmart, that I'm actually growing category share at Costco. And so how you do those things is not created the same. And so I think as brands have realized that, that's where they're also like, well, I can't afford to hire an expert in all of these different places. And so I need to go back to sort of this model of how does an agency help me get there faster and more efficiently?
Faster, more efficiently. And I also think they don't have the luxury of having the feet on the street at the retailer to have those conversations. So they need a partner with that retailer connectivity. And I think if we go back to the shopper marketing of the early 2000s, most of these agencies would say, I've got somebody who's a Kroger expert that sits in Cincinnati. I've got somebody who's a Walmart expert that sits in Bentonville. It's not enough. So I think you can live in that environment. You can walk those stores. You can understand those playbooks. But if you're not talking to the retailer marketing team, you're not talking to the category buyer, there is a margin of error that is going to interrupt the success of your activation. So we're really, really fortunate that we've got those feet on the street, and
Mhm.
that we can make a quick phone call and very quickly get connected to any of those individuals at the retailer's headquarters. But I think there's this misconception about what connectivity is today, and the importance of it.
1000%. Okay, so the next observation is sort of this idea of where does retail media fit versus not fit? And what I mean by that is brands have been really clear that it is integral to the strategic foundation of how they come to life from an integrated shopper perspective or integrated omni-channel perspective. But the how that comes to life in activation, that the ask of that is significantly evolving at a rapid pace. And So, the question is begged, like they want that strategic agency to lay the foundation to set the strategic tone. But then in the same vein, that there still is this hesitation of sort of the executional aspect and the reliance of I need a media AOR or a performance media partner to be sort of my hands-on keys. And I guess what I'll say is I don't know if there's a right or a wrong answer. It's just more of this interesting observation of sort of where brands are at right now is, they recognize the issue of sort of they've lost touch with the shopper and this need for now shopper marketing agencies to have this resurgence. But there still is this, what we've talked about a lot, the silos and the ownership of where does retail media fit within that?
Does. And I think you and I talk about this every day because of how closely we work together. But it's not just about retail media in a silo, to your point, right? It is about comprehensive, integrated activation. And we had a conversation with a client the other day, or about a client, I should say, not with them, but I would probably say this to their face. They have a separate shopper marketing team, they have a separate retail media team, they have separate agencies for both of those disciplines. Then they have the sales team, and then they have the brand marketing team. None of them are talking to each other. And there is no way to be able to drive a cohesive brand story, which results in your sales and connect with that shopper, if there isn't some sort of integration. I mean, I'd love to see integration across all of those silos, but like, give me two. Have
Yeah.
shopper marketing actually work with the digital team, right? And I think they sort of put themselves on these islands as the single point of contact as an expertise. It's not like that anymore. It has to be
Mm.
additive. It has to be comprehensive. It has to be integrated. People cannot just like take their budgets and run into the corner and spend them any way that they want to. It's absolutely
Right.
ridiculous.
Which, I mean, in fairness, then, like brands in the same vein, they have this realization and want to understand back. I need an integrated agency team that can work collaboratively together to break down these silos. And so, from that standpoint, I think at what point can you have a successful integrated agency team versus at what point do you have too many cooks in the kitchen to get the right decision in a timely fashion?
And zero ego, right? Like,
Yeah,
even for
zero
the
ego.
agencies, you want agency partners that are going to come in and not also purposely silo themselves or be protective of their work, right? Like, if you want us to do the activation strategy and lead the activation strategy in partnership with your brand agency, we'll sit in a room. Nobody's going to carry a separate card. We're all going to work for the same client and we're going to figure it out. You want me to hand it off to somebody else to execute and be the hands on keyboards? That's fine. I don't care. All I want to do is make sure that we achieve your objectives, which most times means driving sales, right? So, I mean, there's no ego for us. I mean, I think we just want to do what's right by the brands.
Yes. So you say measuring sales. That brings us to our next secret. Measurement is not just about metrics anymore. Brands are looking for the true orchestration and harmonization of how all of those disparate metrics, disparate data sources are coming together to actually tie back to what, frankly, the CEOs and the whole entire C suite care about. Did you move more crap off the shelf? Or whether that be digitally or physically.
Yeah. And I think there's not a lot of agencies out there that are thinking through the sales lens. I mean, I can, for every agency that I worked for prior to Acosta and Acosta Group, we would come up with these fabulous shopper marketing programs, beautiful displays. You'd have the NASCAR driver on it and you'd have the meet and greets and you have the XM and you'd have all that. We never saw sales data. I have no idea if it worked. And to that, like, that was probably my most fun job because results didn't matter. It was, did the POS get up, or did we win an award, or did it look pretty? Nobody was holding us accountable for sales. You can't do that anymore.
I think that from that standpoint, though, what we talk about a lot is there's a lot of metrics that you can measure, which is great, but you need to be very intentional about what that leading metric is going to then provide back to sort of a lagging metric. And the lagging metric in this situation is going to be total top line growth, is going to be category share, is going to be your digital penetration, how its velocity increased over the period of time. Like those are the metrics that if you can tie back to your activations is what really is going to resonate not only with the retailer, with the sales organization, but is your CMOs, your CROs.
Well, and I think too often agencies, especially if they are designated as having a specific expertise, are not challenging their clients to align on KPIs before a program begins.
Mhm.
Right. And then sometimes those KPIs aren't aligned with the rest of the organization. We joke about ROAS all the time. Like it's something, but it's not the thing. Right. And
That to me, like again, brands that are thinking about it right, that's a leading metric. Don't throw it out the window. Retail media networks have given you the access to optimize to something in real time. But how do you start to decipher the other metrics that they're providing you, like new to brand, or if they have incrementality? Because those are going to be the metrics when you talk about the lagging output that will actually tie back to what you can what a larger CPG organization is looking to accomplish. And at the end of the day, growth is what they are seeking.
so since we're talking about RFPs, how often would you say the anticipated KPIs are included in an RFP?
50-50 maybe.
Oh, God, I think it's less than that. I think it's like 15 to 20%. Out of the 3 RFPs that you and I have worked on for the last 6 months, I think only one of them had KPIs in it. So snapshot of time, but
I'll maybe give them credit once that Q&A we're asking, how are you defining
yeah.
success? What does success look like immediately out the gate, and what does success look like 3 years from now? And then you get a little further into how they're thinking about it, but even that answer can be wildly different. You can get a lot of brands talking about, I care about return, versus sometimes you get, I care about household penetration. And so those are two very different schools of thoughts, if you will, to define success.
But I think something that you said is one of my favorite questions to ask when getting briefed for an RFP, which is what does success look like to you with your new agency? Because I think their answer is really, really telling. And then I think the second thing is what's not working for you now. So
Mhm.
sometimes they have an agency and you can kind of understand why they're unhappy, or sometimes they don't have an agency and they're trying to understand how to make sense of it. So I think those are 2 questions we always include in the Q&A from the RFP section, and they're both very, very enlightening.
Okay. I think we've uncovered maybe enough secrets for today. But that being said, and again, no longer secrets
No longer
anymore.
well, I'm not sure they were secrets before, but people were not I don't think agencies really talk about this, so
No.
that's why we're talking about it.
Okay, so let's close it out with a hot take. From the standpoint of where you think shopper marketing era is going to be in the next 2 to 3 years, do you think we'll finally have collapsed it and it'll sort of just become overarching commerce strategy? Where do we think retail media is going to fall in this whole equation? What's your bet or forward looking thought there?
Listen, I'm an integrated commerce girly, so I still feel like you have to have this balance of sales and marketing to be successful. So to me, I would love to see us really acknowledge that moving forward and talk about integrated strategies, integrated approaches. And I'm just a fan of the idea of integrated commerce. Is that dated too, though?
I mean, integrated is dated. Connected commerce and integration are just
The same
synonyms
thing.
for each other.
Yeah.
What would be one thing on the RFP, if you look forward in future coming RFPs, a section that you're like, this does not add value, just remove it?
I'm thinking. I mean, I think there's a couple of sections, but we've had so many recently. Steph, I don't know. What do you think?
I'll be honest, I don't maybe have a great answer for that one either.
I just think there's so much fluff, right? In these
Yeah.
RFPs, cut out the fluff. Get to the heart of what you want to accomplish. Get to the heart of the culture you want to create. Get the heart of what your challenge is. A 5-answer RFP that is just like, this is where we're at. This is where we want to go. This is our current challenge. And we're looking for a partner who does X. I mean, you need the background on their budgets. You need the background on their brand. You need the background on what they know about the shopper and consumer so far. Like you need some of that stuff, but just cut out the fluff and get to the heart of like, what do you want to do differently? I think that's the most important thing.
Maybe this is our bonus. And this is where I think brands have wised up a little bit, is this idea of I want an agency to actually show me how they're going to run my business. The idea of capability overviews, show me some case studies, maybe give me some philosophical ways how you would approach my business. No, they have given homework assignments. And so what like
Yeah.
here's the question. At what point is it giving away the work for free versus demonstrating that you've done enough to strategically demonstrate that you're the right agency for them.
And I think it's a fine line between capability and demonstration of an assignment. There's somewhere in between that I feel like, and I think we've done it before, Steph. I think that in certain
Yeah,
RFPs, we've done it. You know, I think all of these clients need to come in and at the end of the day, think about this from a point of collaboration. Who do you want to get up and work with every day? Knowing that you don't have all of the answers and understanding that everything's changing all the time. So I think to me, that's one of the most important things is companies are looking for agency and agency partners is nobody's perfect. We're all learning. It's all changing. And think about who you want to work with every day.
I would say this has been advice that's been given to me my entire career. You spend more time with the people you work with every single day than you will with your family. And so you when you get up and you go to work, you want to like the people that you work with just as much or more than your family since you can choose who you work with. But the same holds true in an agency and brand relationship. You
Yeah.
want to pick someone that you feel like is truly that extension of your team. And, as the market is changing and evolving, they're going to be the partner that pivots with you fast because they're thinking about it in a very agilic, like very agile in their approach.
Well, and also it's because I like you. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like I'm going to outperform because I care about your business. I care about you as a person. And this is really, really important to me. There is no complacency, right? We are not the industry that is shutting our computers down at 5 o'clock and going on to the next thing. We are working long hours, crazy deadlines, and we do it because we love it.
I call it good organized chaos.
There you go. That's a good one. That's a good one.
Okay, well that's all that we have for you today. I appreciate you listening to the Queens of Commerce, and we can't wait for you to tune in and listen next time.
Thanks so much. Have a great week.